What's good, everybody? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by DistroKid. They are the go-to for digital music distribution and the easiest way for musicians to get your music onto Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, TikTok, YouTube, and more. They offer unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of their earnings in stores 10 to 20 times faster than any other distributor. Fastest payouts. They help out with automatic splits, cover song clearance, and all kinds of other amazing tools and templates to help you get the most visibility for your releases. I dig this company and appreciate their business model that offers more features than any other distributor at the most affordable price possible for solo musicians, bands, DJs, studio artists, and any other creators that are producing music in their home, and they also offer label services as well. They've got 3 different tiers to offer creators that start as low as $22.99 a year. That's just $1.92 a month, and even their top tier is just $7.50 per month. And the best part about DistroKid sponsoring the podcast is that they are offering Dan Cable Presents listeners and viewers 30% off your first year of membership with DistroKid, making their already affordable prices even cheaper for you. Check out the link in the episode notes. I will also put it in my Instagram bio in the link tree. That link will give you 30% off that first year of service. Super stoked to have DistroKid sponsoring the podcast and cannot thank them enough for their long time support of this thing. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Puff Coffee. Puff is one of my favorite coffee shops in Portland, Oregon. They've got a location off 28th and Stark in Southeast. Their coffee is delicious, and everyone that works there is always super friendly. I had the pleasure of staying in their neighborhood for a month or so, and it was just a real treat to have this as my neighborhood coffee shop for a bit. And now I find myself going out of my way to get over there and get some coffee. Puff Coffee was started by the founder of Stumptown Coffee, and they are making small batch coffee roasted daily here in Portland. Their mission to find, roast, and deliver the most delicious coffees anywhere. Their small batch process means that they get to keep things interesting with experimental blends and single origin gems while always keeping the classics on deck. They've got a variety of beans to choose from, and if you're not in the Portland area, you can order their small batch coffee straight to your home through their website, and you can use the coupon code DANCABLE, all one word, for 20% off a coffee subscription. Links for Puff Coffee will be in the episode notes. Big thanks to Puff for supporting the show and for their amazing small batch coffee. Now let's get into the episode.
Look down at the
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dan Cable Presents podcast. Thank you for tuning into the program once again. If this is your first time listening, thanks for checking out the show. You can find fresh episodes coming at you every Tuesday. And if you want to help support this thing in a free way, you can do so by clicking subscribe on iTunes, clicking write a review, giving the podcast 5 stars if you feel like it is deserving of so, and that will help propel this thing into the tops of those iTunes charts, giving it more visibility on the national and international levels, helping strangers find the podcast. Just a great way to contribute to the growth and sustainability of this thing. Appreciate the hell out of all the folks that have already taken the time to do so. If you're not listening on Apple, just hit like, follow, subscribe wherever you are listening from. If you're listening on Spotify, give it that 5-star rating. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe there. You can watch all of the episodes there now. The full conversations are up on that Dan Cable Presents YouTube channel, and check out the monthly playlist that I've been dropping every first of the month. 40 tracks, very spread out genre wise, and just kind of a snapshot of what I'm listening to throughout the month and some things that are making it in to my DJ sets. Links for those will be in the episode notes. Hope everybody is doing well out there. This week on the podcast, we've got Portland-based singer, songwriter, instrumentalist, vocalist Malachi Graham, who puts out music under her own name and is also a part of a really great Portland-based band called Small Million, who have been one of my favorite Portland bands for nearly a decade now, which seems absolutely crazy to have even gotten to be a part of a music community for that long and be able to like witness this very concentrated music scene for so long. So here we are, though. Small Million came on the podcast for episode 50 back when I was doing a lot of studio sessions at Mountain Air Studios in the Brooklyn neighborhood. There was live performances that would happen amidst the conversation, kind of KEXP style, which was what was happening back there for the first 75 episodes or so. But yeah, I've been wanting to get Small Million back on the podcast for a long time now. And unfortunately, as you will hear in this chat, Malachi had quite the last quarter of 2023, and she had emergency brain surgery amidst putting out a new Small Million record. And then she also put out this this solo record called Caretaker that is really great. So I thought rather than just doing a Small Million podcast with she and her creative partner in that band, Ryan, who is absolutely incredible and just is such a big part of shaping the worlds created in Small Million. But I thought it would be nice to get to chat with Malachi solo and talk to her both about where Small Million is at and also her solo music and of course her recent brain surgery, which was such a crazy part of her 2023. So I am very glad to see Malachi back in action and in great health. And we did this one fairly early in the morning, so this chat and hang was just a really nice way to start my day when we recorded this last week. And you're going to hear some Small Million and you're going to hear some of her solo music throughout this episode. And definitely check out that most recent Small Million record, Passenger. Just dropped on Tender Loving Empire last year. And you can also check out my recent chat, episode 415, with Jared Meese, who is the founder of Tender Loving Empire. And yeah, just that Passenger record, so killer, as well as the entire catalog that Small Million has put out thus far. And definitely check out Malachi's recent release, Caretaker, as well. Other things also around the 25-minute mark of this conversation. The camera stopped working because I am a dummy. It was a completely user error, SD card storage issue. The damnedest things with those SD cards. You can delete things off of them, but unless you empty the trash while it is still in there, it doesn't actually delete the thing. So I was not dealing with an empty SD card as I thought I was when we got this thing going, and we had to stop for a minute. But I just ended up filling that time with some pictures of Malachi's Caretaker release show that happened back in January at Mississippi Studios, as well as a video that I took that night. So stoked that I was able to be there. It felt like such a monumental show to be at, and we talk a lot about that in this episode. But like I said, it's just 5 minutes or so, and then it resumes back to us chatting in the room. Also, if you're listening to this on release week, I curated a show that is happening this Thursday, July 18th, over at the 6 Below Midnight. It is formerly the liquor store. I haven't been there in a very long time, so I'm stoked to get back in that space. But there's a band coming up from Los Angeles. They're called Brother Swan. They're this really great indie rock band, and providing local support are former guests of the podcast, Junior Bloomer and The Fourth Wall, two really great bands, and just kind of hoping to fill the room out for this band that is on tour right now. Nothing cooler than going to a city, that you're not really familiar with, or maybe haven't played a lot of music in, and there ends up being a room full of people. Those are always very memorable nights. So hoping to do that and help bring that energy for Brother Swan. And with all that, we're going to get into this episode. All the links for Malachi and Small Million will be in the episode notes, so you can keep up with her and Small Million there. Episode 420, bro. Malachi Graham is on the podcast. Very stoked to share this conversation with y'all. And to kick things off, we're going to play a track from Malachi's Caretaker record. This one is called We Made a Home. If you're watching on YouTube, you will also see the video for this one. And if you're not, you should definitely check out the video because it's really great. So this is We Made a Home, and this is Malachi Graham and I chatting it up. Hope you enjoy it. Now let's do the damn thing.
You're in the basement, packing the last of your things. Not how we thought it would go. What a damn perfect ending. Your shadow will stay long after you go. On the bed, on the house, on my bones. We made a home. We made a home. We made a home. We made a
Disturb. I'm podcasting, playing radio.
I almost wore those same slides. That would have been so embarrassing.
Yeah, that would have been kind of nice.
Twinsies. Yeah.
Slide gang.
Yeah.
Just
Slide into Tuna Life.
This might be my first slides podcast. This is a whole new thing that I have to like think about.
Yeah.
Is that
the
like,
feet are on camera?
Well, it's like not even the feet. It's just like how many times am I going to wear the same shirt?
Yeah. Rotating the
Hats.
outfits. Yeah. I mean, I think about this on stage certainly, but then your day-to-day wear. This isn't even your stage wear. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. No one's probably paying attention. They're definitely not.
They're honed
like,
in.
Oh, he's wearing
They're honed
the
in. They're
same
actually
thing
penciling
again.
it out on a calendar and seeing if you're trying to send secret messages. Wore the same shirt again, like
That'd be
3
fun.
episodes later. Yeah.
Yeah, I should just start placing little
Easter eggs.
little things
Yeah.
around. That'd be great. I would be into that. Give people something extra to attach themselves to.
I think it's so important.
I'll do an intro and post.
Great.
And I'll insert a bunch of music into the conversation when it's fitting. And yeah, I'll probably play like a mix of
Cool.
your stuff and the Small Million stuff.
Perfect.
And other than that, Malachi, are you ready to do this thing?
I am here. I am ready, and I'm excited.
Hell yeah. I am also very excited to have you. Small Million was on episode 50 of my podcast.
And you're now almost 300 episodes later?
We're
400?
beyond. We're like
350, 350 episodes later?
Yeah, this is like almost 400 episodes later. We're creeping up on, 450 or I don't know. Last one was like 419.
And we ourselves were a baby band when we were in for that. That was like our first ever video session.
Yeah. I think about that session. That was one of my favorites as far as like the in-studio stuff. And I do know that it was like very early on. And you were like so new to that like synth pop world coming from, like the singer-songwriter, folk, country world.
I was still figuring out how to like move as a person without a guitar. I see that video now and I'm like, oh, I was learning.
Yeah. And then you're also like in this kind of like a sterile studio environment where you have to like turn it on in front of no audience.
No one there, just vibing. But we did have that cool projection thing behind us.
Yeah, that was
I
rad.
liked that phase. That was really cool. We did like circular projections on, it was actually a photo reflector screen, and we would just like pop it up and then map a circular projection onto it. That was really fun.
Yeah. And now Small Million has evolved into this, you know,
Yeah.
this rock band of
Yeah,
sorts.
right. Now I can play guitar.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Small Million music is like something that has remained heavy in my rotation.
Oh,
both
sweet.
like
Thank you so much.
the new record and the old stuff. And it's exciting to see y'all hit the road a bit earlier this year.
Yeah, it was really fun.
But so much has happened in your life in this last year specifically. And I feel like it was very special to get to be at your album release show for your Caretaker record. It's definitely one of those shows that like sticks really heavily in my mind, and a lot of weight and emotion behind you know, the tunes that night. Lots of tears on stage, and it was just very beautiful and powerful, and I'm like really grateful that I got to be there for that. And so yeah, if you're cool, would you just like talk about what you have been through in the last year or so, and just like how much that show meant to get up on that stage and be able to sing those songs that night?
Yeah, one of the most incredible nights of my life, because of everything that had preceded it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we put out our Small Million record, Passenger, on Tender Loving Empire Records in September, and we were touring through the fall. And then in like late October, I got really sick, and thought it was just a flu, and it got worse and worse. And then I ended up in the ER on Halloween night, which was extremely trippy and strange, because like I get that people want to wear Halloween costumes to work, but like maybe ER doctors shouldn't do that.
You're just being taken care of by people in costumes.
It was so okay. I was like there was a curtain, there was a veil between me and the like dying world, okay? And then someone walks by in a costume looking like a ghostly 1940s nurse. And I had to turn to my mom and I was like, "What, did you just see that? Is that real?" And she was like, "No, I saw that." These people, bless their hearts. Like, of course it's fun to have fun at work. But
oh yeah.
in the ER, I don't know what's real and what's not. And I was like critically dehydrated and had sepsis, and my blood oxygen level was tanking. I had pneumonia.
Oh Jesus! And like SpongeBob is just like walking in to like take your vitals.
A woman came in with her bulldog, like an English bulldog, in a backpack, dressed as a nurse.
Oh, wow.
And I was, is this really happening? Like, are you really allowed to bring your bulldog to this like triage unit right now? And she was like, "Isn't he cute?"
No wonder you're scarred from this experience.
I know. So actually so confusing. So that was the beginning of a very surreal experience, very appropriately surreal. I was then checked into the hospital that night. They couldn't quite figure out what was wrong with me, but like then my hospital crew, like my nurses that night, were this pair of guys dressed as like anime characters, and they were asking me all the intake questions, and like the intake questions about, like, you know, mental health. They want to make sure you're doing okay in the hospital. And so this guy dressed as like an anime character was asking me like, "Do you ever think about going to sleep and never waking up?" I was like right now, this is really weird. Like, what the hell is happening? Anyway, so that was the beginning of a crazy journey that was like a week in the hospital. They didn't quite figure out what it was, but were like, "You're probably fine." That included like ICU time and a serious bout of pneumonia that they didn't know where it came from. And then thought it was better. I did have to cancel East Coast tour dates for Small Million because of that. And then 3 weeks later, thought I was out of the woods, got a super high fever again, had to go back into the hospital, had to cancel a Seattle date I was really looking forward to playing with Maita. And they ended up figuring out what it was. Very, very, very bad luck. But I had just gotten a rare blood infection from a dental cleaning. Just from going to the dentist.
From taking care of yourself.
From taking care of myself. Exactly. It was like just doing exactly what I was supposed to do. And this is not to instill any fear of the dentist in your listeners, although that may have already happened now that I've said this. But
I've already had that fear before this.
I'm just validating you.
So now I just feel like I'm doing a service to myself.
It's called Lemire syndrome, and the flip side of it, you can't win either way, is that if you don't go to the dentist for a long time, you can get the same thing.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
So I was back in the hospital. They figured out what it was. They put me on the right antibiotics. They let me out. And 2 days later, my left side went numb. And it turned out I had a brain abscess from the same thing. It was like the third act of the horror movie.
Just your whole left side of your body?
Yeah, started with my leg and then started kind of moving upward, went back to the ER, and then got rushed into brain surgery the next day, which went really well. And then I spent the holidays like in rehab, learning how to use my left side again. And the weird layer on all of this is like the week before Halloween, I had just announced my new record, my solo record, to come out in January, which is called Caretaker, which I've been working on for 5 years. Really proud of. And it's a lot about emotional caretaking. Like the album is... you know, there's a lot of themes of codependency. There's a lot of trying to figure out what are the ways that it's good to help and take care of someone versus what are the ways that it's overstepping.
Yeah.
And untangling that for myself. And so I announce it, and then I'm immediately in intensive care, like the actual intensive care unit, figuring out like, oh, there are ways that it's really good to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Like when you have a weird tooth blood infection thing. So yeah, I had brain surgery on December 17th, and yeah, then you were at my show on January 19th.
That's insane. Yeah, I've become good friends with Lisa Hagen this past year, and I remember her
She's
telling
amazing.
me,
She's the coolest.
she's like, so Malachi's we're going to play this show still. Like, she's determined. She's crushing through, and she's very determined. And I think I saw your mom like a week later at a Music Portland meetup,
Yeah.
and she was like, yeah, she's going to do it. And I was like, fucking hey, all right, cool. Hell yeah.
I wasn't allowed, so I still had all my brain surgery restrictions on. There was just a hole in my head now, just a little one. It's cute. But I still had all the restrictions in place, and I wasn't allowed to lift more than 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to like put my head below my knees, like or below my waist. So like playing a show, I wasn't sure at first if I would have to have a guitarist in. Like I knew I would be able to sing. And I was like, okay, they can prop me up on a stool.
Yeah.
And if I'm really woozy and still can't kind of use my left side, that'll be fine. I can just sit there, and was thinking through, amazing people who offered to come play guitar for me. And then it just kind of came together in the 2 weeks before, and I figured out how to do it again. One of the things they got me to do in rehab was I was having trouble maintaining my balance, and like I was in a wheelchair at first, and then on a walker, and then on a cane. And the way that they got me to like learn how to stand again was just putting a guitar on me. Like they just put an acoustic guitar on me with a strap, and then I was like, oh no, this is something I really want to do. Like I can do this. And so I was like standing in Providence, Portland, like on a hospital floor, like woozily drifting around trying to play songs on guitar about caretaking. Like it was so strange.
Yeah,
And,
just completely flip the script on you to play all these songs that are about caretaking in some way, and now you're the patient.
Yeah, that was not how it was supposed to go. Okay, that was like not what was supposed to happen. But yeah, so that night, holy shit, it was in the middle of the ice storm. We're just at the end of that big ice storm in January.
Yeah,
hard
you
to
had
get
like,
there, I imagine.
it was actually I remember it very clearly. First, I think that was like the night it eased up. So I went to 2 shows that night.
People were ready.
They
were
ready.
Yeah.
But I do like, didn't you like your band ended up having to stay Like you guys had a little slumber party.
We holed up at my parents' house through the whole. My parents are amazing. They're so sweet. We were just supposed to have band practice there because the power went out at my house. So we're like, okay, let's go do this in my parents' basement. They're very generous. Set up for band practice, and then the town iced over, and so I was stuck. We called it snow camp. This was me and my band. So it was the incredible Rascal Miles, who was in town from Minneapolis, where he lives now. Who is just like a great friend, incredible player, incredible songwriter, and plays bass with me. So Miles was in town. Staying in my parents' attic, and then Eben Hoffer plays guitar and keys and all kinds of cool synth stuff with me. He's brilliant.
Never had seen Eben play music. Didn't even know. I mean, I guess with like a sound engineer, you assume that they like play a little music, but I had no idea. And I was just like, oh,
he's incredible.
Eben is also not only an incredible sound engineer, but great musician and just singing and
so cool. Great songwriter too. But yeah, Evan's amazing and has really helped me. We've done a lot of duo shows too. He's helped me turn some of these songs that are so fully orchestrated on the record and figure out how to strip them back for 2 players. We've played as a 3-piece. We've played that show as a 4-piece. He's been absolutely incredible in helping sculpt that sound for my Malachi Graham project. And then eventually Lisa joined us too. So Lisa was on drums with us, and she was sad because I think she was house sitting at first and couldn't be part of the snow camp. But then she like came back for the last 2 nights, like, I gotta be a part of this. And so we were like watching movies. I was like fully still recuperating from surgery in the back bedroom, and that band of people, like, they all took care of me. Like I felt so loved and supported, and to get to go play that show, like, it was absurd to still play that show. That was absolutely ridiculous, but it didn't feel unsafe. It felt like it was important to my healing, and it was ridiculous. Like, that, what a silly thing for me to still do.
Yeah,
but
does it seem like absolutely insane to you that you did that now? Like being like
looking,
6-7 months removed from it?
Like, what on earth? Like, I had just learned to use my arm again. And they kept trying to get me to sit down during the set, and they got me to sit down for 1 song, but I was high on being alive. Like, they could not get me to sit down for long. And yeah, it was just one of the most incredible nights, and all the people that came out with just the barely thawing ice, and my parents there, and after having sat next to me in my hospital room for all that time and how scared they'd been, more people sent me videos of my parents crying in the audience at that show than videos of me. That's like, everyone was watching them.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I can't believe that happened. I'm so glad you were there for that.
It was like I said, very special to be there for something like that, you know? Like, not only I'm already a fan of the music that you make, like whether it's like Small Million or your solo stuff, so like I was probably going to be there either way, but knowing like everything that had happened and just like, I'm just like, damn, she's gonna play this show. This is crazy. Do you feel like that's like very in line with your character, like thinking about who you are? Like, is it not that big of a surprise that you tried to do or did do something like that?
I think so. I do not know what it was in me that made that like, it just, I had to. I just had it on the books. I'd been looking forward to it for so long. I had worked so hard, and I was willing to work really hard to still make it happen. But it's one of the things I'm proudest of in my life, I think, having done. Whoa.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I like to think it's my character, but then now my character really needs to rest for a while.
Yeah, was there any point while you were in the hospital recovering where like the switch hit where you're like, I can do this, or like something that like kind of willed you to make it through?
Man, it was probably not long after brain surgery, and I just started thinking about it when I was recovering and was like, what if I still do that? That would be ridiculous. Like, what if I remember texting my band maybe a week after brain surgery, like, I think I'm still going to do this.
Yeah.
And the group text was concerned.
Like texting your mom, is she okay?
I know. Yeah. I think Evan texted back, like, you know, Miles was like, okay, we're behind you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then Evan was like, you are my most concerning friend. But no, like they all said, like, if at any point you want to pull the plug on this, we will.
Yeah.
And they were even in practices, they were just like, we're gonna get ready for this show, and if it doesn't happen, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And that made it feel really safe. Like, that made it feel like it was going to be okay. And I was already starting to play guitar even before I was in rehab, when I was just in the recovery floor of the hospital. It was the craziest thing. I couldn't use my hand. I kept knocking over cups of coffee, like food, everything on my hospital tray. I had no idea where my left hand was in space. I was just like knocking things over. And then my dad brought in my guitar, and when you put my guitar in my hand, I could finger pick.
That's crazy.
Still. And I think it's it's so incredible about music and about things like playing an instrument, that it's not in your brain, it's in your body. And there was this just muscle memory to my hand. Like, and then I would, you know, move on to do something else, and like, oh yeah, now I should be able to. No, I had no idea where the hand was in space.
Yeah.
But I could play these songs I'd played hundreds of times. It was just, I was finger picking.
Yeah,
It was
that's
crazy.
amazing. Yeah. I guess it's just like, when you're watching somebody play an instrument and it looks absolutely effortless, and it's like, not because it is effortless, but because it is like that muscle memory, and it just doesn't like require a lot of brain power.
I saw like Glenn Campbell's farewell tour when he was like, I think, where was it, at the Schnitz or something, but where he was really struggling with, I think, Alzheimer's, and his newer songs were hard to get through, I think, but like, as soon as he was playing classics, like 70s country classics, he was absolutely shredding. And I just think music can keep you young in so many ways, and can like keep your brain so healthy.
Yeah. Did it also just seem to be like incredibly helpful for the healing, as far as like being able to accomplish something like that so quickly? Yeah,
it made me feel like a superhero for sure. And yeah, from just to be able to do something again. I knew I could still sing, but I think it was the playing guitar that made me feel really like I still had it.
Yeah.
I'm also so grateful that there wasn't anything cognitive from the whole process. Like, I was fully with it the whole time, just based on where the brain thing was going on. I was able to be, I think that would have been much more really, really hard for my personality. Like, as long as I can make little schemes and know exactly what's going on and make outrageous little plans, like, I'm good. I will find a way to make the body piece work. And I've had a history of chronic pain and stuff I've had to work on with my body, so maybe that felt more familiar. Like, okay, I need to work really hard to get this muscle stuff back. I've had a couple rounds of pretty intense sciatica and all of that sort of awareness. One thing I think is so weird is how much of the new Small Million album was about breathing. Like, it is something I was thinking about a lot, I think. And then the thing that made me cancel the tour was this pneumonia, where I like was in the ICU because I couldn't breathe. And then so many of the songs on Passenger are circling these themes of breathing and the body, and how those tie together for me, and how those come together that it's like self-awareness itself is in the metaphor of breathing for me. It's like a literal, the way I feel air coming in and out of my body is like who I am as a person. And so to have that in crisis for a little bit was really hard.
Both of these records that just like,
I know,
reflect
different
so
sides.
Weird.
It was eerie. I was like prepared for this experience, unfortunately. But They did say in the hospital that that my vocal training for tour is part of why my lungs were strong enough to make it through that round of pneumonia. It was really bad pneumonia. And I had been like running on my treadmill, belting Taylor Swift songs to like get my lungs up to par for touring with Small Million. And like, so my lungs were like, they were ready.
Yeah. I don't think like maybe people think about like that sort of training for somebody that's like maybe going out on the road, like just to have to even think about doing something like that to make sure you have the endurance to like make it through a set.
It takes endurance, right? Like it just I think especially with the amount of belting that I'm doing with Small Million, like it's one thing to be able to like sing one song, but then when you're putting together a whole set or an hour-long set, how those things are going to stack on top of each other. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be winded going into that song, so I need to be able to handle that song at that level of movement. Or like, that's a song where I'm not wearing a guitar, so I'm dancing more. Like, can I dance all the way through that song? Like, and I think seeing stuff lately too about how like Chapel Roan does like high intensity interval training to do the level of like running and singing that she does on stage. Like, I think in pop music, it's important.
Yeah. And we're not talking about like Alberta Street pub size stage. We're talking about like a massive stage that you were running across and trying to like cover so much ground that like so physical.
We played the Cascade Equinox Fest last year, the first year in Redmond. Yeah. And we were opening the main stage, so like the biggest stage we had ever played. This is like much bigger acts were playing on it after us. And we got up there and we're like, this is the stage is the size of the room at Mississippi Studios, like the whole room, and trying to that's really hard to practice, right? We don't have practice rooms. Like, we're practicing in my basement. You don't have a practice area where you can like jog from one side to the other and are like connecting with the crowd at every moment of that. So to some extent you have to learn while you're up there, but what I can do in the meantime is run on my treadmill.
Like, thinking back on that night of like release show, did that performance just feel completely different than any other, or is it like hard to remember what that felt like this far removed from it? Or
I think that the show, weirdly, maybe the show it feels most similar to is the first show I played after lockdown.
Okay.
Because I also played at Mississippi Studios in maybe July 2021. Okay. So like right after everyone was vaccinated, one of the first shows back that a lot of people came back for. And that maybe felt like I was getting to hold all of this energy from people who didn't realize how important music was to them, or were really getting to feel like something that we took for granted, going and being together and appreciating art and like listening to the same words, and the way that you sort of triangulate, right? Like, part of the point of being at a live show is not just like, I'm connecting with that artist. I can do that in headphones. It's like, I am connecting with that artist and with the person next to me, and we're all feeling this and we're all having this experience, and there's this sort of like magical triangulation happening there that I just love about live music. And to get to be the person holding the energy for everyone in that moment was incredibly powerful. And I feel some sort of thread from that show to this one in January, where for me it was like, I didn't know if I was going to get to play a show again. There were some really scary times, and like from going in for brain surgery to like not being able to breathe, where I could only dream of hoping that I would be able to get back on stage. And so it felt like it had almost flipped. Like, at the show right after lockdown, I was holding the energy for everyone else. And then at my show, they were holding me.
For your Caretaker album.
They were holding me for my Caretaker album. Yeah. And my band was holding me, and the audience was holding me. Yeah. I think those are two of my favorite shows ever, just because they helped me feel how we can do that for each other.
Yeah. How much has this experience just like maybe changed your general perspective, I guess, on where you're at in life? Or like, do you feel like it's affected the way that you're making music and the way you're thinking about things?
I'm getting back into songwriting now. Had to take a beat.
Yeah.
First of all, because I was just putting out music. This year was already going to be the culmination of a couple years of writing. So I put out my Small Million record, and then I was putting out Caretaker, and I knew it was going to be like clean slate, time to write about new experiences. And then I got kind of a like fire hose of life experiences right to the face, like this time in the hospital. And I was also falling in love at the same time. So the sort of like high low of some of the worst seasons of my life and some of the best feelings I've ever felt. And I was like, I'm going to need a second before I can process this all happening. I'm still figuring it out, I think.
Yeah.
I also very much my personality is to be back to normal is a really strong urge that I have, I think. And to deal with things with humor and like hopefully positivity. Like I think those things really helped me get through the experience in the hospital and get right back to performing and feeling all of the power of that. And I think that my journey in the next however long is gonna be in slowing down and feeling everything. I think that's one of your jobs as a songwriter.
Yeah.
Is to feel it all. And I'm okay. I'm totally okay now physically. I'm better.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to feel through like, oh, I was really not okay, and that's still kind of in my system somehow. I think that'll be really interesting to work through in songwriting.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, in slowing down, there's just like probably more to process than you even think there is, as far as like the way that an experience like this can scar you, or just
Yeah.
the anxiety of like having to go back and something else happening. And
Yeah, the fact that it kind of kept coming back again and again. I think I felt so much after the first hospitalization where it was just mystery pneumonia. I was like, oh my God, I'm just so grateful to be alive.
Yeah.
So glad we're through this. So glad this is over and I can move forward. And then that it came back like again and again, and we hadn't figured out what it really was. Yeah, it's hard to not just live in the clench of that a little bit of like, could it happen again? Could it happen again? Which no, I'm better. I know that rationally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's both, like on one side of the coin, just like so glad to be alive and so grateful for for some things I have taken for granted in that, and the fact that like I felt really good about my life even when my ability to keep living it felt uncertain. I don't think I had one of those moments where it was like, shit, I'm doing everything wrong. Like I need to make some big changes up in this life. It was like, nah, this is great.
That's
like
nice.
I make music with dear friends. My relationships feel so good. It's how spoiled am I that like my near-death experience was like, just keep doing what you're doing. It's great. So it's not like there are big changes I want to make in that regard. It's more just like, oof, I got to feel it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're recovering, and I'm glad that you're doing well.
Thank you.
And yeah, amidst all this, you put out a great record too, you know?
Thanks.
You worked on Caretaker with your dad, Philip, helped produce it.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys have done in the past, like collaborated like that?
This was the start of it. He's always given me really good feedback on my songwriting. Yeah, I'm really close with my dad. I run a business with my dad by day, making microphones, and it was really fun to I've always loved his taste in music. And it was really cool to realize that he's a great producer. Like, he has a really good ear for what a song needs. And then he was also helping me make the songs weirder. Like, before this, and my last Malachi Graham release was my EP Selfish, which was much more in the country Americana vein. Played all live to tape, with like upright bass and shuffly drums and harmonies, and I was in sort of a different songwriting era then. I think a lot of those they were earlier in my songwriting process, and also a little bit less personal. Aspects of it were personal, but Caretaker is, when you hit that time in your late 20s where you're really facing yourself down a little more.
Yeah.
Where, I'm not just like curious or observational about the world. It's like, oh, I've made some mistakes now. And that was... They're the first songs that felt hard to sing in public. And I think that's a good sign. I think that means that I'm tapping into something that maybe other people will relate to too, because I'm singing things that I'm embarrassed about.
Tapping into something that's pretty vulnerable if you're feeling that way about sharing them.
Yeah. I think the first time I played some of these songs in public, and just that feeling of like, can I just do this in front of people? Are they gonna, oh my gosh. After it was at Al's Den, like at a really intimate show at Al's Den downtown. And after the set, I was like, I think I need to go to the bathroom and cry a little bit. What is happening here? And I went there, and Kendall Core was in there too. And they were like, Are you here to cry? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, let's have a moment. And so, like, that was the start of our friendship. That was like, I guess, another moment of like receiving care and being like, this is unfamiliar. What's going on? But your question was about my dad producing my record. It was so much fun. He has my parents' house in the basement has this 1920s speakeasy, like an actual speakeasy where people would get drunk when it was illegal. And my great grandmother lived in the house next door to them during the 20s. And so when she was still alive, she would remember like, oh yeah, all the drunks would come like pouring out of the basement. That was so annoying. This is in Northeast Portland. And it's this really cool wood-lined room. Like all the walls are wood. There's a really cool bar. And then there's these windows that have fake like alpine snow scenes painted on them. So like the whole speakeasy is like alpine themed. But it's a beautiful sounding room. And so we would just get together on weekends for like a couple months, I think. And we had in my good friend Jamie Stillway, who's an incredible guitarist and can play anything and also has just a great critical ear.
Yeah.
And then my friend Sean Michael Thornhill, who plays with Double Plus Good. And we would just get in a room and try these songs like a bunch of different ways. And that was how they got to where they're going. So like As Is started as a super straight ahead country song. Like I still have the way I play it on guitar that's like just kind of a country waltz. And then when it came out the end of this process, it was like Jamie and Sean both playing the same guitar through extreme distortion, one of them using like a screwdriver on the strings to like get a really trippy, dreamy sound, and like all this spaciousness. And like I didn't know that was a way I could play music. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you loved me as is, but you were just taking care of me. You don't need to take care of me. I'm doing fine. So I need a drink to unwind, and I stay up too late and stare at the sky and listen to bands I know you can't stand. But I thought you loved me as is. Were you just taking care of me? You don't need to take care of me anymore.
Is that just like maybe some next level bonding to like share that kind of experience, and especially like with the vulnerability of these tunes with your dad being a part of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think what a cool move for a dad. Like after I have my first bad breakup, for him to be like, can I produce the record?
Yeah, absolutely. Also just must have like added even more weight for him being at that release show.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
be like, oh, I like helped my daughter put together this record and just everything that went along with it, you know?
It's really our record, definitely, me and my dad's record. And he has been such a caretaker in my life and in a really positive way. And I think through being at that show after both he produced the record, he also did all the PR for the record himself. He like emailed everybody, and just thinking about him in the hospital, like he would come in every day at 6 a.m. He is not a morning person, and he would get to the hospital with his cup of black coffee at 6 a.m. and just sit with me for a couple hours every day, and then go to work. And we run a business together. So he was doing my job and his job the whole time I was in the hospital. Yeah, I love my dad a lot.
Yeah. You're, I feel like your family is just like this powerhouse of Portland. Like your mom has been on this podcast before, you know, and she's just like spearheading music, Portland, music, Oregon, like really advocating for artists, like as long as I've like can remember, I guess, you know, and I just see her at everything that is music related, I guess, and whether it's shows or whatever. But yeah, was it just, I don't know, were you always surrounded by like a very encouraging artistic environment, or just felt like really supported, I guess, in like everything you did as a kid when you were exploring things?
Yeah, they're pretty relentlessly supportive. It's overwhelming at times. Yeah, they just, I mean, whatever I wanted to do, they were full square in my corner. And both of my siblings are also creative in their own spheres. My brothers, Gordon Graham and Emmett Graham, they write and create a webcomic that's really incredible called Captain Tempest, which is like an action adventure webcomic that they've been putting out for a couple years. It's like a little bit Indiana Jones, a little bit like high flying. It's a lot of airplanes. It's so cool. And yeah, I think with all of us, it's our parents have just been so supportive of our artistic practices, and we weren't always a musical family. They always listened to really cool music, and we had like a guitar in the living room that was my grandfather's old like pre-war Martin, which is gorgeous. The reason I wanted to start playing guitar. And my dad got into the microphone making business when I started songwriting, because he wanted to like record the songs I was starting to write. Incredible producer dad. See, that should have been our first indication. And then my mom, you know, grew up in Portland and has always been aware of Portland's power as an independent music city. And I think especially, you know, we moved back to Portland when I was 6, so in 1996.
From like Boston, right?
From Boston. And she came back, and that, you know, that was such a boom time here. And for that 10 or 15 years after that, it was like, wow, what an incredible place of an affordable city for people to make music, and like the organic indie music scene here being so powerful and cool. And hearing about that too in your episode with Jared Meese, like, you know, them moving here in 2006 and just looking around and being like, whoa, we could make something really cool here. Everybody's playing in each other's bands, like artists are supporting each other. There's something so unique and special about Portland's music culture that is more and more under threat as the city gets more expensive.
Yeah.
And so my mom for a couple years was working her tech job, and just like, yeah, when she would like drink a little whiskey, she would be like, somebody needs to get all the music community together and get them to stand up. Somebody needs to advocate for them. Somebody needs to be the central point that is like getting what we deserve from this city. And then eventually she quit her day job and made that so her work with Music Portland and Music Oregon it has been so incredible to see. Like, she is doing so much for this city, and everybody who works with and volunteers for Music Portland, like it's a really special organization. And some of the people that, like, they have an incredible grant program now, and just getting to see and hear the records that are coming from those grants, like, it is such a powerful, like, countervailing force to all of the increased cost of living and just stuff that's making art in this city hard.
Yeah, and just giving people just like free opportunities to show up to a panel and like just get some perspective and hear about people's experiences. Yeah, your mom is just like somebody, like, once she gets on the mic, it's like, I feel like she's very good about like commanding attention and just is like, she was one of the people that spoke at the Pickathon deal when they were trying to get their permit, and I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah, Mira.
Yeah. No, she can rally a crowd. That is one of her superpowers, is like, she was born to be a civic leader, I think. Like, I'm so glad she's using her power for good. Like, if she's gonna be an advocate, if she's gonna be a lobbyist, like, lobby for music, mom.
You do not want her to be a monster on the other side.
No, luckily she's awesome. So
as I mentioned, when I first met you and you came to that studio session with Ryan, like doing the Small Million thing, you know, you were like very new to that world, and coming from the singer-songwriter stuff. And so I'm curious, now that you've had so much experience playing in Small Million, like how that has informed like the way you are like writing solo music and maybe vice versa, but just like how that has impacted your entire approach to making music outside of a Small Million.
That's a great question. Yeah, it's been so cool. Like, Ryan has been my closest collaborator for 10 years now. We've been playing with Small Million. And getting to have a creative outlet that is so deeply collaborative that like everything we do, we are bouncing off each other's sensibilities. So like, you know, he'll start with a little thread of something and I'll come in and sing over it, and then we have to throw away some of what he loved and some of what I loved.
Yeah.
But that's how we get to something that both of us agree, like, oh, this is so much better than what we would have just come up with on our own. And I think it's inspired me like to pull in more collaborators and opinions on my solo stuff too. Like, I think it's helped me recognize how much stronger work can get when you really trust your collaborators. And I think like absolute trust is probably the core value that makes Small Million tick. And we feel that too with our bandmates, Ben and Kale, just really enjoying each other's company and like being willing to try things and have that feel really safe. And if it's not working, be like, okay, nope, we're throwing it out. Let's start with something else. And I think in what I was describing of the Caretaker process, like that where I learned to do that for the first time was with Ryan. And not just assuming that all of my own ideas are brilliant. Like, no, let's like this, you know, this song doesn't have to be a classic country song. We can make it so much stranger.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just continues to be so rewarding writing with Ryan. And like, yeah, something about a real duo writing project where his standards for an emotional hit from the song, it's so high. Like if a song is not hitting the part of him that like gives him some shivers and like just makes him feel something, like if he can't picture standing in the crowd listening to this song and really feeling something, it's gone.
It's over.
It's gone. That song is not staying in the mix. Like he has such a high bar for that, and I feel like you really hear that in the Small Million production.
Yeah. I mean, respect to that as far, because like if it's not moving you, then like everybody else I think is gonna feel that as well.
Yeah, and I think he's also taught me that like it doesn't matter how clever you think your little turn of phrase is. Like if you're trying too hard to be clever and it's not speaking the truth, who cares?
For sure. Just maybe like change the way you're thinking about like editing your songs even at this point, since there's so much like production that goes into the Small Million stuff.
For sure. Yeah, that things can sound different sonically, and that he cares a lot about how words sound specifically. He also wants the meaning to be on point lyrically, but like there will be just a sound to the way the words are sung, and he's taught me that is like as important as the lyrics. You need the lyrics to be really good, and then you also need just how they feel and sound, and the performance of them to all be in service of that feeling.
Does your approach feel a lot different from project to project? Like, like whether it's lyrics or like the way you're delivering your vocals?
There may still be like more storytelling in my solo work. Like I think if I have an idea that is more like, oh, I want to create this very particular sense of place, and something that's leaning, that still kind of draws on that classic singer-songwriter like folk tradition, that sometimes feels like it ends up in my solo project more. Whereas we still want specifics in a Small Million song, but we're also going for a kind of universality. But when I start writing a lyric, I don't definitively know which project it's going to end up in. It's not everything comes like with the name tag on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes things get, moved or repurposed, or I think, I'm trying to remember which. There's definitely common threads between a song on Caretaker and Passenger, and I forget which, but, there will be some lyrics or ideas that trickle into both, and you're like, oh, that's the same songwriter.
Yeah. Are you pretty closely like working on lyrics with Ryan when it's Small Million stuff then? Yeah,
I'll come in with ideas and sometimes a finished like a verse or something that I think can go over something, and then he'll build the beginning of a song, and I'll be like, oh, this little lyrical chunk could be cool on that, and we start there. But yeah, he also will sometimes have it be he'll know like exactly the shape of the words that he wants, or we'll start from just a melody and sound, and then he'll kind of chop it together and be like, here's the hook.
Yeah.
You have to write words that feel like this and that have these kind of vowels and these kind of things. But he's not, it can't just then be like any old words that fill that in. Then he does really care, like, and they have to be meaningful.
Yeah,
it's like,
it
is a hard Sudoku sometimes. It's like fitting it in and then being really proud of that outcome. But always when he's like, try harder, like, if I'm like, I just can't do it, I can't solve this puzzle, he's like, I think it's gonna be worth it, keep working on it. And then when I hit it, I'm like, you were right.
So he's like, here's the template, make it work, Malachi.
Yeah.
Is that, I would assume that would like also just maybe like forces different types of creativity out of you. Then
I think it's good. I think sometimes writing with really specific constraints, like you can just get way cooler stuff out of it than when it's just I'm just sitting down with my guitar and it's like, write a song.
It's like putting a creative like parameter on something, and like that often seems to like breed good things most of the time.
I think so.
Does it feel like pretty important for you to have both outlets? Like you're getting a lot out of each one that feels different, like live performance wise? Does that feel like pretty different space? They
do. And I don't know that I can totally put it into words what each one is doing. But it's, they both feel really important. And with Small Million, I'm the one singing, but I feel a lot less like the front person. Like that feels like it's such a collaborative project, which I love. That is so much fun.
Yeah.
And then it's also fun to have a night where I'm like, let me tell you a story. Like, let me take you on this whole journey. And Small Million, Ryan, comes from a film background too, and is so like the aesthetics of the performance are so key to him. And I think that's the same thing. He wants to picture himself in the audience having a feeling in the same way that like great cinema can do that.
Yeah.
And I love like having that aspect of the performance. And I also love having someone who is a fully invested co-collaborator with me, where at the end of the day, like a solo project or a project with your name on it, even if you have people in your corner, like you have to be bringing your own energy and momentum to it. Whereas with Small Million, it just feels like we're already this stone that's rolling downhill because both of us are always pushing the other one forward. It feels so much easier to get farther with Small Million because the two of us are in it together.
For sure.
Partnership.
Yeah, absolutely.
It works.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of what I do to get to sleep. All the stuck on stars on the ceiling are flicking out on me. Caught in between the way I am and how I wanna be. Ooh, oh, the secrets I spill. Ooh, oh, always have, always will. Ooh, oh, I'm drowning myself in the overkill. Ooh,
I mean, you've been working on this stupid like Tuna Boy shit that I'm like
I
doing.
love Tuna Boy.
I appreciate it.
On the record as a Tuna Boy fan.
But like this podcast is like very DIY and like pretty much like me moving the needle and like me doing all the work. So it's like it's very fun like stepping outside of that and like working on something so collaborative as like this video project that I'm working on, because I kind of just get to show up
Yeah.
and like I get to rely on everybody else's ideas, and because they are all more experienced in the field, I just like trust them so much to be like, yeah, whatever you need, I'm just here to
I'm just here to be the face of Tuna Boy. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they're both important aspects of a creative life. And I think it makes you more grateful for each of them to have both, right? To be like, let me go just lean on someone else's skills and brilliance and have that trust and get to do one specific thing really well.
Yeah.
Versus when you're like, okay, I'm doing the writing, the booking, the recording, the, scheduling. I mean, I think it was really important to me, actually. Like a big reason Caretaker came out is because my dad was in my corner there, and like getting to have a little bit more of that, like, okay, I'm not completely out on my own feeling in that project, has been so helpful, and is why the album is out.
Yeah, and I'm sure like the flip side too, it's like nice to like when you're doing your solo stuff to like kind of have that autonomy to like be like, I wrote this song and this is how it is, and I don't have to like consult with anybody else as much as like you
Yeah.
cherish the collaboration as well.
Exactly.
I know that, I mean, it sounds like you worked on Caretaker for a really long time. I know that Passenger, the Small Million record, was done for a while.
Yeah.
And what has it been like for you to like just kind of sit on collections of tunes and just kind of have to play the waiting game of releasing them?
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, both of them were done for a long time. 'Cause just the release process, you know, for Small Million, we were doing the like slow drip release of singles, and then, you know, even before that we were working with Tender Loving Empire and like making the plan for releasing them. When you're just so excited for people to hear something that you're excited that is done and you're really proud of,
Yeah.
you just have to breathe and try to write other stuff in the meantime and be excited about it when it comes out, you know, and try to hear it with fresh ears when other people are finally hearing it with
Yeah.
fresh ears. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it, is there some sort of like relief, like knowing that like both of these records are finally out in the world, like you can kind of like move on to the next thing as well?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They're not mine anymore. They're yours now. Yeah.
You mentioned you're starting to write a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, I know you're trying to slow down as well. So
Both.
is it feel like you just have to find ways to balance those things and still write when you're feeling it, but not force it in some way? Or?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think journaling, I've never been a big journaler, but it has been feeling like a really important part of my like hospital processing experience. And luckily that feels really tied to songwriting. I think like the slowing down and thinking it through and feeling the feelings of what I was feeling in that time is all going to inform songwriting. And it's sort of starting more from the lyrical side of things. I'm working with Ryan and having regular songwriting time with him, which feels really good. Just getting in the studio and like playing with melodies and playing with ideas. I think I'm finding a way to do both the slowing down and the starting to look at the next chapter. But Ryan and I always call it like we're planting little seeds, like, and we'll refer to different songs that are in different phases of development as like, oh, that one's just a seed that we just put in the ground, like it's not quite there yet, or like, oh, this one's a sprout, like how are the sprouts doing? And we go and check on the ones that are like the sprouts, that are more like, oh, there's like one idea in there that's pretty cool. And then you get to your little saplings that are kind of like a little bit more like, we're like, okay, we're grooving on these. Maybe the structure is all done, the lyrics are all done, and then it needs to, you know, be planted in the forest. And, you know, when we actually get the production done, then it's like a finished tree. So I would say I'm kind of in sprouts with a couple saplings right now.
Yeah. As far as the Small Million stuff, like at what stage in the process is it now that you and Ryan like bring these songs to Ben and Kale and start kind of like working them out in a full band arrangement? Or does that usually not happen until there's like something pretty solidified on like a recording or a demo?
We kind of wait until there's a demo, but especially Ben, like especially getting live drums in the mix, we're trying to bring in earlier and earlier because the rhythm can inform a song as much as the melody and lyrics really. Like we're wanting to get him in earlier and earlier on that.
Yeah, you're not just this duo synth pop
No.
project anymore.
Like an indie rock pop band now. Yeah. It's so great, honestly. And it makes touring so much more fun. Like, and playing, like they're just playing live when there's people to bounce against that are not just like electronic instruments.
Yeah.
I think it makes both Ryan and I feel so good about like getting up on stage when you're playing with live drums and bass, and especially like Kale's harmonies in a live context.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Like they're the best.
All those things maybe like informing the way you guys are writing too, like thinking about it more as this like full band.
Yeah, for sure. And we just know they're going to feel better to play live, and that you get that live harmony feeling, the propulsion of the drums. Yeah, it's definitely sculpted the project.
Right on. Well, I'm glad you're alive, Malachi.
Thanks, Dan.
I'm glad that you're able to be here and talk with me.
This is so great. I'm really happy to be here too. I mean, I should be paying you for some of the therapy, but it's fine.
It's been really cool. It was like pretty unplanned, but the last couple episodes that have come out have been people that I've like known pretty much since like near the beginning of me starting this like 8+ years ago, and like a common theme of that has just been like, it's so inspiring to me to see someone like yourself like still making things, you know. Like I think it's like so important to like be around people that are, you know, creating, and like you see your peers, even if you don't like talk to those people like often, it's just nice to know people are still doing the thing.
And I mean, I just love knowing that you're still doing the thing this long. Like you have so many episodes at this point and are hosting such cool conversations with people all across like the Portland ecosystem and beyond. Like it is really cool to see what this thing has become, and your space here is so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that too. I think that's such a cool thing about Portland music. I mean, there's no way to be in touch with everybody that you like in Portland music like all the time.
Yeah.
But to cross paths, whenever we cross paths at shows, I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
And I feel that too about like a lot of your guests too, are the kind of people that I'm just like, keep it up. Like people are doing such cool stuff. And
yeah, I don't know. It's just like this constant battle to me that I think, as far as like not letting life or the world like dim the creative light. Like I feel like it's this constant
especially
battle.
the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to like know people are like hanging tough and still like finding the energy to create is always incredibly inspiring to me. And yeah, I just soft spot for Small Million being like one of the OG guests, but also just like love the music you and Ryan are making, and then yeah, what you're doing solo is so great as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you for hanging. Thanks for making time for me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me back years later.
So excited to you know, hear what rolls out next, whether it's you solo or the Small Million stuff.
Awesome.
I'll put all the links in the episode notes. There's vinyl records for both. I need to add Small Million
I need to bring you one. Yeah.
your Caretaker record
Totally.
to the collection here. I'll put all the links in the episode notes, Malachi. We end every episode of the podcast with the guest saying the tagline for the show, which is "It's a program." You probably did it 400+ episodes.
I sure did.
And
I've been in training ever since.
you've been trying to decide how you're going to deliver this. It's the one time we'll ask you to look into the camera that is recording. I am recording. I'm a professional. So if we can get the Malachi Graham "It's a Program," we can properly sail this thing out.
You're listening to Dan Cable Presents It's a Program.
She nailed it, everybody. That's Malachi. I
Thanks,
feel
Dan.
like it would be fitting to play the episode out with "It's a Wonderful Life," which I just feel like that was that moment that like I remember so like it's so permanent, like permanently stained in my brain as far as that release show.
I fully cried. So
I think a lot of people were crying. That was like that moment you could scan the audience and see like maybe a lot of tears falling. So
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life off the Caretaker record. Links are in the episode notes, and that is the Jelly Jams, and we will catch you on the flip side, Portland or wherever you are listening from. Cool. We did it.
We did it.
You getting treatment.
I did not feel brain dead. I felt
I watched your favorite movie every night about a man who gave up every dream he ever had. Someone always needed something he could give. There's enough of me to go around until there's not. There's enough of you for everyone to use, but it's a wonderful life. It's a wonderful life. It's a wonderful life. Everybody cries. So call your wild creatures. They'll hop and flap and skitter